And first, let me say an amazing job by Aubrey. I always, for those that know how this Ignite works, they do the product related side first, they do the business. And I'm always on the business side. I always feel like I'm trailing behind someone that was much better at that than this I am. Plus, I don't have a newborn on my shoulder to call attention to. So if I make just some baby noises during the presentation, maybe that will help. I don't know. I'll work on that. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for showing up tonight. I know that it's a special night, being the night after Easter, and I really appreciate your time. We're going to discuss tonight why you need a coach and the difference it can make with you and your team. But let me do, like, in big letters now, big alert. I'm going to give away 2 coaching sessions at the end of today's session. So at the end of today's presentation, I'm going to give away 2 coaching sessions, but you have to be online at the end to receive the prize. All right, so that's my draw. I know how to deal with competing with Aubrey and her message. I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to give away a couple of free coaching sessions. All right. Well, as Jill said, my name is Eric Walton. My wife is the reason that we're diamonds, for sure. And we've been with Young Living for 9 years, and she's done an amazing job as a diamond for the last 5. What I've been doing for the last 10 years is I am a certified John Maxwell leadership coach, and I've written 2 books for the Young Living team. You may have heard of them: Downline Leadership and the 5 Pillars. Usually, if I'm on top of my game, I have a picture of them. What do you know? I do. All right. So if you've seen Downline Leadership, you've seen the 5 Pillars. Enough hawking. Who cares? What really matters is what you're going to do to coach your teams. All right. I'm going to talk to you about what that means. So I've had the honor of coaching over 1,000 Young Living leaders, in addition to 150 diamonds. And after 5,000 hours of coaching, no exaggeration now, 5,000 hours of coaching, I've got a few insights to share with you. Everyone on this call has either had a coach or knows someone who has. There are sport coaches, life coaches, business coaches, leadership coaches, change coaches. Obviously, there's coaches that Aubrey was talking about, and many, many more. Why do they exist? And more importantly, how can they help me in my business? Which is the only reason you're on tonight, right? I mean, I'm not here to sell anything. I'm here to really give you an opportunity to just understand how important coaching is and how to take advantage of it. The best way to develop yourself, and I'm the best again in capital letters, the best way to develop yourself as a leader is to have a coach. And the best way to develop the leaders that are on your team is for you to coach them. Now, one of the things we'll talk about later on is different leadership styles. And one of them is called the one of being a director, which is where you basically are giving instruction. You're telling people where to go and what to do because you've been there before. You're trying to help them get there as fast as possible. But when you're in director mode, directors only develop followers or rebels. Only when you coach do you actually draw out the leadership in someone else. So if you're looking for your own leadership to get better, like your team is struggling the last couple of years and you'd like to breathe new life into it, there's lots of different programs introduced by a lot of different people. But I'm going to give you the straight up one. If you can learn to coach, it's going to make all the difference in your team. And if you can get coaching, it'll make all the difference with coaches. Use powerful open-ended questions to focus the other person on finding their own solutions to the questions that they have. Just think about this. You want to reach that highest potential? The right question at the right time can create a unique learning experience where only you can make the changes to what you're doing in your business move forward. Again, an impactful coach will understand your business challenges and help you find your own road to diamond. This is the big difference now. We're not trying to get into a situation where I have all these answers for you. In fact, I guarantee you, I don't have the answers for you. You don't want to take the road we took to diamond. It's filled with potholes that may be too much for you. There's another path for you. It has to be your path. How do you find that? Coaches help bring from within you the right answers because they're the answers for you. My favorite is, so let's say something happens and it was only yesterday and gosh, it's just exactly what you're going through today. Nothing is ever the same. What I love to say this is, here's the deal. That was me, that was yesterday. This is today, this is you. So I want to help you find out what your solution needs to be today. That's what's so important. In tonight's presentation, I'm going to share how I coach, and I'm also going to teach you a bit on how you can coach your team. Now, again, why should we be doing this? How about a couple of, these are actual studies done by companies like the Manchester Group, the Vision Quest Consulting Fund. Couple of data points. Coaching yields return on investment of 529%, the initial investment in a typical coaching assignment. 529% if you actually invest in the coaching. 67% reported improvements in teamwork. 53% reported improved productivity, and 48% reported improved quality of output. How about 100% has significantly increased their ability to deal with business challenges? General effectiveness as a leader had increased by 50% or more. Working relations with their team had improved by 50%. Effectiveness in communicating to that same team had increased by 75%. How about the ability to deal with conflict had increased by 50%. Real data, real results from real studies showing how incredibly important it is that be involved in being coached and being a coach. Imagine having improved individual performance, better bottom line results, better client service, better competitiveness. Imagine having 68% say that they had higher self-awareness, 61% had a more balanced life, 62% had smarter goal setting, lower stress levels, and greater self-confidence. I'm sorry, am I getting through now in terms of how important these studies are? It's showing that 77% felt that coaching has significant or very significant impact on at least one of their 9 business measures. 60% reporting increased productivity. 42% said that coaching increases motivation. And by the way, I'm only giving you about half the data that I have. So you're sitting here. So at this particular point, okay, I've thrown out a bunch of numbers. That sounded nice, but what's the point? This is all about how you're going to change how you do business, how you do it and how your team does it. And you have to have a method. You have to have tools to do that with. Imagine being here about, 10 years ago when there was a big shift at Young Living. When they went from everything had to be done in an in-person class to finally getting on social media. And it changed the way everything was done. We're actually part of Lindsay Moreno's downline and just think the world of the changes that she put into place. Incredible. 9 years later, social media is not going to save you this time. There's no magic, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, private message. There's no secret weapon out there in terms of social media that's going to save you. You've got to do something different. You actually have to invest in the people that you have. And how do you do that when you don't have anything of your own? That's where coaches come in. See, coaches ask questions that seek to frame and expose the important information and topics. Questions allow coaches a chance to learn more about you and then give you an opportunity to follow a potentially new thought pattern. When I spend time with people, I'll ask a question and then I just shut up. I just let them ponder and think and what does that look like to them? Because I want to hear where they get to. And if they get to a place, I get to ask more questions. And I get to ask more questions. And if you've never had a coach, there couldn't be a better time to invest in doing that right now. And oh, by the way, as much as you're desperate for coaching, your team is even more desperate for coaching. Because they really don't know what to do. But wait a second, they kind of do. They kind of do. They just don't know how to get at the answers that are inside of themselves. Think about this when someone says, well, you got to go and do more marketing or more pitches to your warm market. And they're going, oh my gosh, if I talk to my cousin one more time, I think they're going to disown me. But in reality, you know how to talk to your cousin. You know how to talk to your cousin a lot better than I do. I don't know your cousin at all. So why would you let someone else tell you how to speak to your cousin? That doesn't actually make any sense to me. Why would you let someone do some kind of presentation from some stage and tell you how to speak to your cousin? Doesn't mean you can't learn some new ideas, can't learn some new techniques, but at the end of the day, this is your cousin and you've known them for 30 years. Why would someone be able to tell you better than anyone else but yourself how to do that? This is the time. This is the moment that you need to have someone that's going to come alongside of you and bring the very best out of you. You have to understand what it is. What is your potential? And how do I get an understanding of that? To get there, you're going to learn through questions and timely responses and respect for silence that are allowing you to ponder in silence, offering immeasurable opportunities for growth when you get a chance to do self-reflection. Just before this call, I was doing a coaching call with one of my corporate clients, and she is 2 years out of college, and she's actually done really well for herself in these 2 years. But she had a problem with an older individual, an older man, and she didn't know how to resolve it. And I said, just talk to me for a little bit. So she talked, and it was pretty obvious that the biggest issue on the table is she was afraid to talk to him. And I just looked at her. I said, so why are you afraid to talk to him? And she actually just put her head down. She started to cry a little bit. And she just said, well, he's so much older than me and so much more experienced. What would I say? And I just looked at her and I said, what do you want to say? And there was a long pause. And by the way, this is where you just have to just sit there, be quiet, be still. And she had been privy to some information that was before he got it. And he was just plain jealous. Why was this youngster getting information before he did? It wasn't her fault. She didn't go get the information. It was brought to her. And I said, what do you need to do? She says, well, I just need to talk to him. I need to tell him the truth. So she's been avoiding this conversation for 2 months now, and their relationship is getting worse and worse. He's been getting ornerier and snarkier, and it's been getting hard for her to even deal with him, when what she needs to do is just sit down. It's probably about a 15-minute conversation. But she hasn't been able to do that because no one has been willing to believe in her that she was capable of doing it. And she didn't believe in herself. Because no one believed in her, she didn't believe in herself. That's what coaches do. They believe in you. See, coaches help you to expand your horizon. Let me give you 3 key steps to good coaching. So first one is, I use this phrase, is to realize. So just as with any transformation, the first step that coaches take is to help you clearly see today. Problems and potential, obstacles and opportunities. It always starts with how you view reality. Accurately perceiving today is the key to finding meaning and creating momentum for tomorrow. That reality you're going through right now includes not only what we see and experience, but also what we're feeling. A good coach is going to help you realize what's happening today. As our view becomes clearer, we can help others do the same. As our view becomes clearer, we can help others do the same. So many of us right now are struggling because we can't figure out our own business. How can we possibly help any of the leaders on our team? So we feel such a loss. When in reality, you are so much more capable than you're giving yourself credit for. So much more able to make a difference in people's lives than you want to admit. So much more wonderful at getting the message of oils out. How did you get to this position? So unless you became an enrollee last month, for those that did that, welcome. But for those who've been in this business 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, oh my gosh, you've been doing this for a long time. Now, things continue to change, but the oils haven't. The website changes, the shopping platform changes, the delivery, the P's and P's. Gosh, just about everything I can think of changes. Let me give you some guidance for the future. They're going to change again. But what really also needs to change is you. So what are you doing to actually change? What are you going to do to make a difference before you can step forward? So the first thing is you have to realize what's going on today. Recognize where you are, where your team is, not pretending that you're back 2 years ago, not pretending 2 months ago. Where are you right now? In the middle of April, where's your team? And then the second step, I want you to visualize. So amidst this swirl of change and ambiguity, the fog can sometimes become so dense, it's hard to look ahead. And right now, I know some of you are trying to figure out, right, they want me to go to convention. I can't imagine living to June, let alone going to convention. I don't know that my business will be in place in June to go to convention. Stop right now, Visualize the clouds disappearing, the clouds dispersing, the fog going away, and that you are in the Salt Palace Convention Center right now, listening to Mary talk, listening to Gary on a recording, knowing that in fact, this is the future that you're basing it on. You want to have this business and you want to make a difference in your family and the families of others. But you need to look ahead, and that's exactly where our focus sees the shift. See, coaching looks forward. It's really important that you don't see coaches as therapists. So therapists tend to look backwards. And there's a reason for that. They're trying to uncover something that happened to you days, months, years ago that are affecting the way you're interacting with the world today. Coaches look forward. We're trying to recognize this is where you're at. We're going to take all the tools, resources, and all the skills you have right now, and we're going to create a new future. Doesn't mean that you don't have a past, but we don't pretend to be that. We're trying to help you build a future. But so effective coaching helps you set on your sights on what's most important now and in the future. Coaches help you develop that clear, sharper view. So not just, what's your why, but what's your definition of success? When you actually accomplish your why, what does success look like? And we continually focus you on the future. That way we help you better visualize the horizon and sharpen your focus on what's ahead. Now, so if the first step was to realize where you're at, second one was to visualize where you want to go, third one is actualize. So with a vision to guide you, you need a game plan to actualize tomorrow. And oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite things to do. This is not a solo act. You need coaches who know you, your journeys, your hopes, and your struggles. I'm really big on having coaches that have an understanding of the industry you're in. There's lots of coaches out there, lots of them ask good questions, but one of the biggest benefits when you're having someone who understands the young living world is the questions that they ask are more pointed, they're more specific, they're more focused, and they're more driven. And they open up more areas that you haven't thought of because they know the experience that you're going through. We're going to help you dive into deeper questions. Do your ways of doing things still serve you? Does your mindset support or thwart change? What do you have to do differently? How can you actualize a better tomorrow, starting today? This is not a one and done. It's a process of transformation. Think about what your business is right now. It took years to get here. It's going to take years to get to a different place. So you have to start. So let's continue to do a deeper dive and give you a little more context to how this means with your business. All right. So for those that know me, what my favorite formula for success in this business is real simple. S is in Sam is equal to M as in Mary times L as in Larry. S equals M times L. So if you can apply this formula to your business, you're going to have immense success. By the way, that would be true of any business. So the S stands for success. It's going to be determined by M times L. M is your management competency. How effective are you in running your business? The day-to-day grind of running your business. The more effective you are, the more success you're going to have. Then there's a multiplier, and that's the L. That's your leadership effectiveness. By the way, you got to run your business and lead your team. So being that competent manager means running your business, but there are many wonderful resources and management systems like Game Plan, the RISE program, and of course my personal favorite, the 5 pillars. They're out there to help you. But the leadership component is the multiplier. When I say that little X, the multiplier, it makes it, if you can improve your leadership, you can have a vast impact on your business. So if leadership is really, really important, how do you improve your leadership skills? Focusing on 2 major themes will help you get there. Now, I want you to realize now, these 2 themes are best delivered to you in a coaching format where someone is going to help you to draw out of it. But the first theme is leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. I said in the beginning, I'm a John Maxwell certified coach. That's one of John's biggest quotes. It's just true. In this world, there's not a single person that's a part of your team that reports to you. You can't change, you can't hire them, you can't fire them, you can't change their composition 1 penny. How do you get the rest of your team to do anything? Influence. Well, how do you get the influence? The leadership engine, right? So the leadership engine is going to link to your strengths, and it's going to propel your leadership to higher levels And it really helps if it's delivered to you in a coaching format so you can learn it best. First part of the engine is establish credibility. So when you are coaching someone on your team to be a better leader, are they authentic and believable? Because if you got people on your team that are trying to do this business that are not authentic or they're not believable, who in the world would buy oils from them? And if you're not authentic or believable, you're going to have a difficulty building a team. So establishing credibility starts off this leadership engine. It helps to get it to influence. Second is to build relationships. Oh my gosh, this business is all about relationships. And imagine having a coach whose only concern here is how do they help you to build more effective relationships. You have to learn how to connect and how to care for people. When you do that, you know that you're on your road to having a better chance of having a successful business and young living. Third one is earn trust. Huge, huge deal. This is where you have say-do alignment. When you say things, you do what you say. So imagine someone who you believe that they're authentic, they have credibility with you, you have a relationship with them, and that you trust them. That means you now have influence with them. And if they're on your team, they're going to start to listen more carefully to what you're trying to help them with. And if they're customers, they're going to have a greater sense of authentic connection with you. They want to engage with more oils. They're going to want to engage with a bigger business because they know that you care about them and you're there. All right. So that's the first part, this leadership engine and getting to influence. That's what you want to be coached on how to get there. The second thing you need to coach for is how do I become a situational leader? This world is filled with different situations. Leaders are quick to change their approach to style and role when the situation requires it. If you're not changing your approach on a regular basis, you're using the same approach with people on your team and your customers all the time. That will not serve you well in today's changing world. Just today, if you're watching the news, okay, do you need face masks? I mean, just today, if you're watching some chats going on, oh my gosh, do you need face masks? Yes, no, sort of, kind of, depending on the city. Then all of a sudden the TSA said you didn't need face masks. Now the certain airlines are saying that you don't need face masks. That's just in the last 2 hours. How can you not be changing your approach to just flying in the last 2 hours? If you're going to stay back in some place or not travel, you're going to miss it. Missing opportunities. So you want to be a situation leader. Let me talk about the 4 roles. One, I already talked about, being a director. And by the way, these are not right nor wrong. They have to be at the right situation. So when I'm going to tell you something to do, it's because it's the most efficient, right? But it also is the least effective because I'm not developing anything but followers or rebels. But the next role is really powerful. I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to show you what to do. And Matt, you know what it is when someone's getting on the website for the new shopping platform for the first time. We had someone who reactivated after 12 months. They hadn't seen the new shopping platform. I mean, they were stumped at the very beginning. So we literally had to tell them which buttons to push at the beginning. And then we went into teacher mode. We showed them how to maneuver around. They had no idea. Next one is being a mentor, sharing with people what you would do or what you have done, giving your experience and your insight. Really, really powerful in a relational way. And the last one, of course, the one we're talking about tonight is coaching, where it turns it around. The first one, I'm telling you what to do. The second one, I'm going to show you what to do. The third one, I'm going to share with you what I would do. The fourth one is, what do you think you should do? Is asking questions of you. Again, if you're going to talk to your cousin, why would I be director, teacher, or mentor? I need to be the coach. So what does your cousin care about? I don't know. What does your cousin care about? You should know. Now, we get a situation where I've heard a lot of leaders say they're having regular coaching calls with their team. Now that you've heard these different roles, it's pretty common that you have not had that many coaching calls with your team. What you really are doing is you're having director calls, teacher calls, and maybe a few mentor calls to throw in. But very few coaching calls are actually going on. And the reason is because you're not asking any questions. Because that's the nature of the coaching call, right? I'm going to actually ask questions. But if you remember now, the nature of coaching, only coaches develop other leaders. So if you to have a call, you have to ask questions, probe where they're at, how you can help them. It's the only way to make it a diamond. You can't possibly make it a diamond and stay there unless you have other leaders in your team, and you can't have other leaders unless you're coaching them. So the best way to grow your own leadership in business with coaching, and the only way to raise up other leaders to learn how to coach. So let's talk about what it is to be a coach, right? So here's a working definition of coaching: being the catalyst for the growth and development of others. Being the catalyst for the development and growth of others. You're going to pull from them what they need to do to make a difference. When you coach someone, you're bringing out their new ideas and insights. Coaching is all about the other person. Coaches try to help others realize their personal potential, not mine. We just got done saying you can't possibly travel on the road I took to Diamond. You can't travel on the road that Jill went to Diamond. There are some things that you do so much better than both of us, and other things you don't do as well. How can you travel the same road? So the obvious question is, well, gosh, Eric, then how do I find that road? Get a coach. Because you know what coaches do? They help you find your road. Not my road, they help you find your road. And this is about pulling from people, not pushing into them. Now, in most cases, a coach has three objectives when they're trying to coach someone. They want that person to achieve greater self-awareness. They want to be able to become engaged with a goal-driven productivity. I want to get someplace. And they want to be able to have greater accountability to themselves and others. So once you can help people truly see who they are, what their skills are, focus on a goal, and willing to be held accountable to achieve that goal, that they're willing to take everything the coach has and more, it's going to be so worth it when all of a sudden a new leader stepped up to the next level. I just got a message from someone's upline. By the way, Mary just became executive last month, and she was in a couple of coaching programs that I do. And before I take any pats on the back, she did the work. All I did was ask a bunch of questions. She was stuck at senior star for 2 years. And I'm being honest with you, I did not give her one single new idea on how to get to executive. There's not one brilliant thought going on in this brain. Jill, no comments there. Not one brilliant thought going on in here, just more questions than you could possibly imagine. And all she had to do was to start looking at her circumstance, looking at her business, looking at her team, looking at her potential market in a different way. So I just kept asking question after question after question. She hit executive. By the way, there's no doubt she's going to go on to silver. Now, to get to that level of coaching, it's going to take a bit of heart and some brains. So let's talk about what that looks like. The heart of coaching is caring about that other person's growth and development. If you don't care about the people on your team, we can stop now. There's no reason to worry about coaching, because you're really just doing a real strict view of what a business looks like. And those are just tools at your disposal, versus understanding that your business is based entirely on people, and you're looking at people as if they're going to make the difference in your team, because they are. You want to connect and exhibit empathy for that challenge. Coaching is hard work. You constantly have to hold your own opinions, advice, and solutions in check. I just got done saying, I didn't tell her how to become executive. I had ideas. I've seen my wife do it. I'm very opinionated, and I just held all that back. Ask more questions. You just have to genuinely care about them. Think about them. You're spending your valuable time with someone, helping them to figure out their own problem. If you don't care, this is simply just a waste of time. So clearly you want a coach that actually cares about you. I was telling him I was on that corporate call earlier today, and she, this is someone, I think she was 25 years old, only been out of school 2 years. And the only thing she knew about me is that I genuinely cared about her finding her way. And it didn't matter that I had 30 years in the corporate world. That was not important. By the way, that was then, this is now. That was me, this is her. I'm not a 25-year-old Boston University grad right now trying to make it at this company. She is. So let's talk about her issues. So if the heart of coaching is caring, that means that the brains of coaching is having curiosity. You got to be curious, inquisitive. You have to keep thinking of new questions, different ways to frame them. Otherwise, you get too clinical or even unimaginative. Say they've got a problem and you want to help them solve it, and that takes a curious mind. But you can't solve it for them. But you got to have a curious mind to ask different questions. It also helps when your coach has an insight into your business, industry, products, and associated challenges. Man, it really helps when your coach understands young living and what you're going through in the direct marketing world. Let's move on to the coaching process. Remember now, I'm trying to also help you and how do you become a coach with your team. Now, I'm not trying to get you to become a coach tonight in one hour session. It took me almost 3 hours of training, 300 hours of training, and 5,000 hours of working as a coach to get to this point. And I still got a lot of room to grow. So for you to do this, I'm going to show you some tips and some ideas so that you can start to learn how to become a coach. But please just realize that you're just going to start practicing some coaching. All right. When the coach engages with another person, it is always their agenda that drives the discussion. In my one-on-one group, my one-on-one coaching calls, the first thing I'll say is, Mary, what would you like to talk about today? Now, I've got a list of things for me to talk about, but it's always their agenda. If they have something that's not on the list, I push the list aside. I go, okay, Mary, talk to me. What's going on? And we just start talking. So the job of the coach is to get them to open up, to get transparent and vulnerable while they discuss the challenges they're facing. Now, I'm not looking for you to listen to people whine all day. Everyone's life is way too short to listen to your team call about why they didn't get a delivery, why the website's not working, why the price isn't what it's supposed to be on the sale. Life is way too short for you to spend all your time doing that. So you're not here to be a sounding board of just whining and complaining. You actually want to help them fix things. And by the way, for some reason, I'm not able to fix pricing, so I don't spend a lot of time dealing with pricing issues. But I do help them figure out what they're going to do and how to handle a price that's different, how they might have communicated to their customer with the wrong price, and how they can re-communicate. That's what I do. I focus on helping them to figure out what that looks like. You've got to create a safe and trusting environment. You got to ensure that the other person knows that every single conversation with them is confidential, right? You don't know the girl's name that I talked to at corporate, nor will you ever. Of course, there could be times when they may be a little hesitant, and you may have to ask permission to coach them, and that's okay. I will ask it this way. We're talking, and I'll say, Mary, would it be okay if I asked you some open-ended questions? I really think you have the answer inside of you, and I think I've got some questions that might draw it out. I'll actually ask that question. Because remember, the coaching process is actually just asking open-ended questions forever, allowing the other person to explore different ideas and themes while working towards their own solution. These open-ended questions, by the way, are structured in the how, why, where, when mode, not the could you, did you, would you, have you, should you mode. Let me repeat that bad list again. Did you, could you, have you, should you, would you? How often have you asked that question in the last day alone? Every time you ask that question, it's a yes, no question. When you're asking those did you, could you, would you, should you, have yous, you're asking for clarification so that you can solve their problem. I hate to burst that bubble. There's only one person on the entire planet that can solve their problem. That's them. When you solve their problem, you rob them of their own solution. You rob them of doing it wrong and learning from it. And you rob them of coming up with something that might be even better or more creative than what you thought. And yet we get so caught up into doing that because when they call, what are we trying to do? We're trying to actually solve their problem for them, and we can't. You waste so much time. Let's say that you actually did solve their problem. And let's say that it actually worked well. It'll never be theirs. They won't even own the success because it was your solution. And they sure won't own it if it was a failure, then it was your fault. So why would we ever want to ask questions where the only thing they can answer is yes or no? Because all we're doing is confirming what I got this. Let me ask one more question, clarifying this. Yeah, now I got it. Now I know the entire circumstance you're going through. I know every single conversation you've ever had since the time you were born. I'm ready to solve your problem right now. which is a bunch of garbage. It can't possibly be true, but that's what we think. Instead, asking open-ended questions opens the world up, right? It allows them to craft their own answer and not be limited by anything you did or said. With each question, you're peeling another layer of the onion off. You're enabling the other person to see their challenge from different perspectives and becoming open to new solutions. I know there's many times you want the answers just be given to you by your upline. Well, please hear this truth, that whatever answers anyone gives you, they only apply to them, not to you. Their circumstance can never be the same as yours. Even though it can be very similar, it can never be the same. The only way you're going to grow is to uncover your own solution to the problem, and that is what coaches help you do. Now, a couple of things to be very careful when you're coaching. Don't be a machine gunner. Ask only one question at a time and let the other person answer. Asking too many questions in a row is confusing, it's disrupting, and it's difficult to respond to. Like most times people answer the last question and they'll forget the first two or three, or they'll answer the first question and forget the last four. So just ask one question at a time, let them answer. By the way, you'll be shocked that if you just listen to the answer, it will likely change your next question. Just ask and listen. Don't be a restater. When you ask your question, let it sit there. Frequently, as soon as you say it, you're thinking of how you could have asked your question differently, better. But trust me, resist that urge, let them answer. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to ask the same question 4 different ways, and they're going to get confused. If they don't understand your question, because maybe you actually did say it wrong or say it poorly, you know what they're going to do? They're going to ask you to restate it. Doom, you get a chance to restate your question because they asked you to, and they're going to be listening the second time. So don't be a restater. Don't be a multiple choicer. When asking your question, don't restrict their answers by giving them possible choices. I do this all the time with my kids and my grandkids because I know all the possible choices. Here's the question, and it could be one of A, B, or C. It is almost always D. And D is their answer. Let them come up with the answer to their question. So don't be a machine gunner. Don't be a restater. Don't do multiple choices. Don't be a problem solver. Ask questions that are going to really help the other person solve their issue, not you. And then lastly, and most important, is do be a 1-2 boxer. 1-2 punch. Here's what I mean by that. Frequently, they're in a spot, they really do want to hear what you would do, so that you mentor them, you share with them what you would do. Now, by the way, they're writing all this down and they're about to go do exactly what you just said that you did. And then you pause and say, Mary, what about what I just said appealed to you? What about what I just said would not work in your circumstance? You ask them questions about what you shared so that they don't hear mentoring as direction. They hear mentoring as you're sharing your heart, your time, your passion, your experience, but you want to know what they're going to do with the information. How are they going to change it? How are they going to make it theirs so it's their idea and their solution? Now, when we talk about this, remember we talk about director, teacher, mentor, coach, and now we're doing this mentor, coach, 1-2 punch. Sometimes even a good coach will go into a situation not sure what to do. Or if you're with your team and you're not sure where you're going, I always start with a coach first. Even when you think it'd be better just to tell them what to do in this moment, I just start with a coach first, which means I ask an open-ended question first. Frequently, asking the open-ended question will confirm with your intuition that it's a director, teacher, or a mentor moment. But by asking the open-ended question, they're more in tune with what you might be sharing, what they have to say. It just makes a big difference, right? So if you just remember those rules of what not to do, and then remember to be that 1-2 punch, mentor and coach, and then remember to do coach first, ask the open-ended first, right? Now, we keep talking about what you're asking, but the other side, of course, is that to do honest and deep listening. The coach doesn't think of what they're going to ask before they've heard the answer to the last question. Don't have a list of 5 questions ready to go. Just ask one, listen to the answer. We don't listen to respond, we listen to understand. Coaches are in the moment. We allow the other person space to reflect on our question and to dig deep within themselves for their genuine answer. Our primary goal is to help them arrive at a solution, not offer any advice. So we focus on listening. I like to take notes when I'm coaching. because it allows me to focus on what they're saying and what they're feeling. When I'm listening, I don't have an agenda. I don't enter into judgment. I don't try to fix anything. I just listen with an open mind and heart. I listen to what they're saying in their language and don't translate into mine. Even if it would be quote unquote better, it's not. It's what the way they're talking. Now, we've mentioned intuition a couple of times now. You may be wondering, what's the connection between coaching and intuition? You can't coach without being intuitive. Think about this. Where's that next question come from? How did Eric even know to even ask that question? Your intuition. How did you know to change direction? Your intuition. You've got to gather all this soft data going on around you and analyze it to come up with a course of action and questions. How? Your intuition. Now, whenever I finish a coaching session, I always close with identifying the actions the other person has chosen to take. By the way, not the actions I'm assigning them, the actions that they have chosen to take. I make sure they agree with my notes. Then I determine the best way to hold them accountable by asking them, how would you like me to hold you accountable? Holding them accountable for what they decided to do is a powerful way to grow your relationship with the other person, and it helps you to continue coaching them for their success. When you get them to say, I'm going to do this, I'm committing to have this done by next Saturday, you've made a huge difference in their lives because they're not doing that today. Once you get in a situation where you can help your team by coaching, that they can make decisions about actions they want to take, they commit to them, and they're willing to be held accountable, game change, big time. Now, this thing around another tool that you want to use is what I call feedback loops. Feedback loops are particularly special, especially if you want to grow your leadership. And it gives you another input other than just your coach and people that you're around. Feedback becomes really important, right? Here's what I mean. When you ask for feedback, you're not asking for an opinion. So an opinion is when you just want someone to tell you how the restaurant was. When you're asking for feedback, you do it intentional and you do it before the event. So let's say that someone's struggling with the ask, the ASK. They're just not doing a good job asking potential customers if they'd like to buy. So before their next sharing opportunity, they ask for someone, a trusted confidant, to join them and to specifically observe how the asking portion of the discussion goes. This feedback is intentional, it's on purpose, and it's done before, it's set up in place before the event takes place. Opinions are after the fact. Feedbacks are set up before the fact. And the feedback becomes invaluable to the person and to the coach, as the coach can now use the information to refine their questions and move the other person along further. So once again, feedback loops are set in place to help people when they're done intentionally and they're done specifically. For example, let's say that you're pretty good at doing one-on-one classes, but you have not been getting any people to sign up. So I would ask, hey, Mary, do me a favor. Would you attend my next class? I really need you to just listen to the close. How do I close out the presentation? Now, right in my script, it says, ask for the business. But because I've been doing too many one-on-ones, all of a sudden, I'm skipping over that. So Mary says, well, Eric, you really never asked anyone to buy. Mary, that's not possible. Let me show you the script. It's right here. Eric, you can show me the script, but I'm telling you, I sat there, I listened, and you never once asked anyone to buy any oils. How would you ever know that, right? It's in your script. You're confident you said it until you finally got someone who is willing to give you feedback and they were trusted by you and you learned something. That's how big feedback can be. And coaches use that information to be even more effective with you. Now, one of the primary intended results of effective coaching is empowering the other person. So imagine when you start to coach people on your team, you want to empower them. Leaders are developed only through coaching. So it makes sense that part of the coaching process involves empowerment. As you ask open-ended questions and the other person begins to formulate their own solution to the problem, they're going to gain confidence and they're going to begin to feel truly empowered. Remember, I talked about that young woman today that was having trouble with a relationship. As soon as she uncovered herself, what she needed to do, which by the way, she kind of knew she needed to do it, just couldn't say it out loud, her entire countenance changed. All of a sudden, she started to be able to look, wow, I got to call this meeting. Now, trust me, she was not looking forward to the meeting, but she knew what she had to say. She knew why she was going to say it, and it was going to change the relationship with this other person. Now, the job as a coach is to coach the other person to success. So I want to coach you to success. And your job is to coach your team to their success. And too often we're looking for that young living unicorn. You're the one who's going to get to diamond in 3 months. Instead, look at the team that you have and recognize that each of them has something unique and special to offer. It's your job to coach them to their success. So by coaching and investing into them, you can make a true difference in them and their business. But it's the application of your coaching skills that pulls them up. Now, we've already mentioned a couple of coaching mistakes, right? And that's to do the multiple choice and the machine gun. But the other biggest one I think that a coach has to overcome is that moment when the other person genuinely wants you to tell them the answer and you know the answer. Pretty obvious, right? Just tell them the answer. No. I talked about robbing before. This is the big thing. If you can get past this biggest dynamic of being the person who has the answer and empower people to find their own answers, you're going to change the world. Another common mistake that coaches will make is all of a sudden go into counselor mode. Well, I've been married 39 years, so that must mean I can be a marriage counselor. That doesn't mean that at all. It means I've learned a few things in 39 years. And if my wife was on the call, there'd be a lot of other things I need to learn. She would share that with you. It's a process. I'm not trying to pretend to be a marriage counselor. So when you're with your teams, you can't pretend to be a counselor or a therapist either. These are trained professionals who spent years learning how to deal with people's past and how that affects their present. Coaches are trained to move forward. Coaches are trained to help you to deal with the future, not to someone's past. Now, only a few moments ago, I said the coaches excel at asking open questions. And unfortunately, most of us are experts at closing-ended questions. And it's because you're trying to solve the problem. But if you just remember that you can't solve their problem, only they can, it changes the world. One last problem I want to talk about, and that is when you decide someone's not coachable. I get this a lot from people on the teams. They'll say, I got this leader who's not coachable. And usually they've made that decision a little too quickly. So first, I want you to reflect on the moment. Is it possible you're trying to coach them at the wrong time? I had someone who was in a group coaching that I had, and she'd been with me for 16 weeks. And so we're literally on the last session. And I said to her, I said, Mary, what did you think of the program? I threw her a softball. She was one of my strongest supporters. She was going to knock this out of the park. The whole rest of the group was going to rave. What a great program. And she says, I'm sorry, but I can't answer that question. How's that possible? Well, here's the deal. It was the wrong moment. Now, unbeknownst to me, one of her best friends had passed away 2 days earlier. And she was only on this call to support me. Otherwise, she wouldn't even be at work. Now, imagine what would happen if I'd asked her or pressed her, no, Mary, you got an opinion. I went right by it. I didn't let it bother me. I knew that was the wrong moment. That night, she wrote me just an amazing recommendation, a wonderful reference. It was just incredible, but she shared with me what had happened. So when we have someone who's not coachable, you have to look at, is it the wrong time? The other is it the wrong topic? I've had circumstances where I've asked someone a question and they just break down and cry. I don't know, was I being mean? Was I being cruel? It's the topic that we chose. I wasn't doing anything wrong, but I touched on something that was very sensitive to them. I stopped. I apologized. Even if I don't think I did something wrong. Hey, they're obviously hurting. I just paused, I stopped, and I wait for them. So before you say someone's uncoachable, make sure you've looked at the moment and the topic. In which case, just be intuitive and you'll make a good decision. Now, I do want to talk about, I just referred to it. So we've been talking all over this whole time about one-on-one coaching. There's also another type of coaching called group coaching, where you're actually in a group. And I was talking earlier about downline leadership. This book, I have a downline leadership program. It's a group coaching program. Now, there's some really, really cool benefits and differences between them. They're not the same thing. So when you do one-on-one coaching, the agenda is uniquely yours. You're the client. So we talk about what you want to talk about. And the biggest strength of one-on-one coaching is you get done what you want to get done. Now, in a group coaching mode, we usually go off some form of an agenda, some off of a book, some kind of material to discuss. What the benefit of the group is, all of a sudden you got 5 other voices. Heaven forbid you have to listen to Eric for 16 weeks. You don't. You have all these other voices that are adding more value, different opinions, different insights. That's so much power. It's so powerful. It changes the dynamic. So you have to make a decision. I want to be in a group or do I want to be in one-on-one? It's not right or wrong. It's 2 different things. And you're going to get a chance to do that. That's how you make choices. Now, the big question I get in here is how do you choose a coach? What looks like that? Well, first thing I ask real simply is how long have they been coaching? If it's been for 3 months, I think again. If they've been coaching for 11 years, like myself, it's a different kind of dynamic. I know they've been through that. How and by whom were they trained to be a coach? Did they take a correspondence, or if you will, online versions of correspondence where they had to do 15 minutes of work and they now got a label? Or they do 300 hours of training and live training to be dealt with in terms of being a coach. What's their insight into your industry? I've had people that were just amazing life coaches, but did not understand the multi-level marketing business at all. And they ended up wanting to talk to me about my weight, which was a good topic, but not one that I want to talk about. I wanted to talk about got to get my business going. So make sure that they have an understanding of who you are and what you're doing. And then last, I always meet with my coaches first. And when I meet with them, I want to know, do they care about me? Do they connect with me? Is that some kind of connection that I know that I can trust them, that I want to be with them? And you're going to know you've had good coaching or you've done good coaching when the other person comes away from the meeting with a new perspective, a new direction to head, and a desire to get there. You and your team will know that someone truly heard what you're going through and cared enough to ask you the tough questions, challenge you to find new answers. These sessions are about you finding your own solution. So just think about this for a moment. What we're trying to do here is to set you up. Now, if you are interested in becoming a coach, just PM me. You can find me on Facebook, or you can also get me through eric@downlineleadership.com. That's my email. You can go to downlineleadership.com. That is my website. You can find me there too. So if you're looking at how to become a coach, I'd be more than happy to help to point you in a couple of different directions, what kind of coach you want to be in, some different training programs. If you'd like to be coached, I would welcome the opportunity to help you. And if you'd like to learn more about how to coach, but don't want to go through the big program, well, then I encourage you to take one of my programs of Downline Leadership, where we actually do spend time helping to coach you. Now, before anyone hears that as some empty little pitch, guess what? I said that I was going to pick 2 people. All right, believe it or not, Peg Lucy. And this is entirely because I'm just looking at the question that she has. And then if you could, and then here's one, Dawn Whitted. All right. I'm going to PM both those. If you don't get one from me, you are free to, I'm going to give each of you a 30-minute free coaching where all you got to do is show up and say, here's the challenge I have, and I'm going to help. So Dawn and Peg, if I don't contact you within 15 minutes after this, you contact me and we'll set this up. All right. All we're going to do is we're just going to help. Now, why would I do all this? What? Guys, I just gave away the most precious commodity that I have, and that's my time. Because I just want to make the difference in people's lives. And hopefully you understand that's what coaches are all about. Just making a difference in people's lives. Again, you can hold me at eric@downlineleadership.com. We are getting ready to do some downline leadership groups in the next couple of weeks. If you want to be involved in a group, and if you want one-on-one coaching, just contact me. But really, really most important now is focus on how you can help the people on your team by caring about them enough to ask open-ended questions so where they get to solve their own problems. If you can do that, you're going to start the difference in your teams that'll be felt for forever. So I leave you with keep on coaching If there's any other questions, we have a grand total of 4 whole more minutes, and I'm here. I did get a question about the 2 books. One is, by the way, they're both on Amazon. Downline Leadership is how to increase your leadership, and it is a great program. You can buy the book, but Jill just got done telling you the best way to go through it is to go through the program. The 5 pillars, by the way, is how to manage your business. It's a much smaller book, so you can see it's a little thinner, and it's just how we run a business. I am actually working right now on creating a facilitator guide for the 5 pillars so that you can lead your own groups in the 5 pillars. So that's something I've never done before. I've never given away the intellectual property, the secret sauce, but I'm going to do that for the 5 pillars. It'd be really helpful for each of you guys.